Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Jeffrey L. Boney. You know what it is, another edition, a hot edition of Real Talk Junkies Live. Make sure you share the link with everybody and check out this edition of Real Talk Junkies. We have a great conversation today, man, and I have some guests that are education advocates as well as digital inclusion advocates, man. And, we have a huge issue of a lack of access to education as well as a lack of access to resources, particularly in the digital space. And here to talk about those things today are none other than Dr. Bobby Mills and none other than Mr. Johnny Molock. Come on, Real Talk Junkies on today, y'all. Yeah, let's give it up for him, y'all. Come on now. Yeah. What's up, sir? Thank y'all for being with me on today. Good to see you, Dr. Mills. So let's first of all jump into the organization you all are a part of, and I know that you founded, Mr. Molock, Bridging the Digital Divide.
Yeah, well, we found it.
We found it, okay.
So when we left TSU, Dr. Mills and Will Gittrey, we started our own company, MGM Technologies, and then we also started a year later when we were giving away computers. We said we need to get more donations and give these computers away. So we started Bridging the Digital Divide.
So what made you
501c3?
So what made you, I guess want to do that? I mean, what did you see? What did you notice in the communities or around that made you say we need to start doing this? Dr. Mills?
Well, we were at TSU, and at the time, my background is sociology, but at the time I was the executive director for board relations at Texas Southern. And Johnny was the academic computing administrator. And Johnny came to me and said, we have an issue with access for internet and computers for young people at TSU. And
so for the college students.
Yeah. Right. And then, we got to talking, and Johnny said, well, part of the problem is a lot of our young people are coming out of HISD and they're not college ready. And we need this resource in terms of the labs for young people to be able to function at the junction, so to speak. And so after that experience, when we left TSU, we ran into some people from the Houston Reed Association, Houston Reed Commission, a guy by the name of Herschel Rich. And he introduced us to a Read by 5 program. And the light came on in Johnny's head.
Okay.
Johnny, being a technology guy, said, well, hey, we can computerize this.
Yeah.
So we computerized a Read by 5 program based on the phonetic system. And in the process of doing that, we went ahead and filed, and Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, God bless her, she helped us get a 501c3. So for the past 22 years, we've had a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we've been going throughout the community, installing computer labs in churches and apartment complexes.
Well, I want to get to that because I know that you all do some phenomenal work in the community. But
we're getting ready to do something for you.
Oh well, we're gonna get to that too, man. But let's go backwards a little bit. 22 years ago, this organization was founded, nonprofit, should I say? But let's talk about your interest in technology. I mean, some people have their interests. I want to be a firefighter, or a police officer, or a football player, or whatever it is, doctor, lawyer. Why technology? What was your attraction to technology, John?
Well, my attraction came at TSU because when I first got there, I was majoring in business and didn't think I was smart enough to do computers or pharmacy or anything like that, So I said, but I used to walk by the computer lab on the computer room on the second floor and think these people were geniuses. But I took a computer class and wound up making the same grades as the computer. You get friends, the first prerequisites you had, the first classes you ever required. And I said, wait a minute. And the teacher said, you're doing just as good as these guys. You need to change your major. And that's how I started. And then I got a part-time job at the campus running cables to dumb terminals and stuff like that, hooking the mainframe computers up. And so got ahead of everybody in terms of technology, and so everybody started thinking you're a genius. And so I could act like I was a genius then.
Wow.
And so, so anyway, the internet came out and everything. So then I became over the whole campus, academic computing. So, providing computers.
So you were on the cusp of the internet coming on the scene.
Yeah, dating myself, but yeah. I was TSU's first webmaster. I created TSU's first website.
Wow.
I was the first one to provide email. My department, we were the first one to provide email to faculty and staff.
So that's interesting. Let's talk about this transition from I guess into the internet. What was happening prior to that? You didn't have emails and all that type of stuff going on then, or what?
Yeah, well, you had there were other programs out there, but there was a battle between which one was going to be the one that was online. And so I can't really remember because that was back in the late 80s and early 90s. But I had one guy that worked at the school education. He said, "Johnny, the internet is going to be the one." And I said, "No, I was picking up something. I was seeing something else." But he turned out to be right. We actually had the person at school education under Dr. Page. He was the #1 internet person in the city.
Wow.
And
coming out of TSU.
He was working there at TSU. And because I was picked, we had picked other things that were going to blow up. But he wound up leaving 2 years later when it really started blowing up to go to U of H. I was fighting to keep him, but the issue was that's why I went out of TSU, because they weren't listening to us at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah, so we that was it was a transition. Yeah, everything was on floppy disk and CD-ROM and all this stuff like that. So and then everything became online later on. But
and the guy really that was with us, Will built the mainframe at Texas Southern at that time.
So if you went on the second floor, Will get you, my boss or IT boss. Yeah, if you go into like the 77 yearbooks and stuff like that, you'll see them installing the main TSU mainframe that was on the second floor. Yeah, you'll see him on there, and he was working for DEC at the time, and then TSU hired him and said, "Hey, well, you need to come in and work." So when I got there in the 80s, he was there and became my boss. And then we all left TSU together, or ran away from TSU together.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up something.
We didn't leave voluntarily.
Right. I was gonna say though, you brought up something very interesting. You didn't think you were smart enough. You didn't think, that you were on the same level as the people that were on the second floor. But it took you actually jumping in the water, if you will, and taking a class and getting some grades similar to those to make you realize, that I can do this and that I'm just as capable. And you wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for that. So, what is it that I guess these younger generations of people now are experiencing? Because I mean, technology is upgraded and changed. You got more access to stuff these days, but yet there's still a divide, a digital divide. So, talk to us about, what's going on. Why is it that our people, particularly African American people or underserved communities, don't have access?
We don't have access because the resources, as a country, we have the financial resources to make that happen. In fact, the program we're working with now, this is actually a T-Mobile hotspot from that Harris County Library System received 40,000 of these. And so we're the primary.
Now you got to explain what that means to the audience, for those of us that are a little bit, not as technologically savvy.
Okay, well, hotspot is a internet anywhere. So it's a handheld device that, for example, and real quick, the library system, in order, everybody, because of the stimulus package and everything, the Harris County Library System purchased 40,000 hotspots and 16,000 Chromebooks. And so hotspots these are internet anywhere. So when I turn this on, this is 5G, 30 devices connect to it, unlimited data, hotspot. So basically, if you were in New York, Chicago, if you were out in the street, or if you're in the park somewhere and you wanted the internet and you didn't have it on your phone or you didn't have it on your laptop, you could be, let's say you were throwing a party in the park and you wanted to be able to have internet out there. Well, you got it. So if you don't got internet at home, you got it. So most young people, I consider us young, but the younger group, when we say hotspot, they know we just distributed 255 of them at TSU freshman dorm the other day. We did 300 at TSU's athletic department with Granger. We were at Prairie View the week before that. The week after that, about 200 plus. We about giving Chromebooks. So we're at apartment complexes all over the place. So So in fact, we're going to be at some high schools before the end of the school year to make sure they take these home with them. So these are $350 devices that allow you to have, if you don't have internet, you have internet.
So help me understand this, because I'm just confused about it all. Why is it that you can go certain places in, like, just say Houston, for instance, and you got great internet access or Wi-Fi access or access to the internet in some places, and then some, like sometimes I'll be riding down the freeway,
hit a dead spot.
Yeah, help me understand, why is it like that? I don't understand that. Help us understand that.
Well, if I can explain, you know, they got the internet AP devices, the Wi-Fi devices, and so they put them on all the telephone poles, you know, and everything throughout this, you know, all these buildings and stuff. They put devices there. So if you go into a neighborhood that's kind of or out on the outskirts or something like Prairie View be the best example. When you start going into the rural areas, they didn't invest yet to put enough of those APs out there, or devices that project the internet, a strong signal. So the same thing may happen in your neighborhood or some poor neighborhoods everywhere. So
that's why I feel like it's some sort of conspiracy going on, man. Because I mean, I look at enough movies, man, and like what was that movie with Will Smith? I know his name's kind of mud these days, but it was the one, Enemy of the State,
right.
And they had these satellites all up in there. They can find out everywhere you go and and I'm sitting there like, if you have satellites all in the sky, in the space, and they can do all these things and track all this, you can't provide internet to black neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods.
Well, you can now. Well, Ukraine, Elon Musk, Ukraine, the Russians, when they tried to take over Ukraine, they tried to, first thing they did was try to knock out the internet. But then Elon Musk came out with, has these, I'm not using the right name for them, but these devices, they're through the satellites. And they said, Ukraine said, that's what saved us, because he, set them out there, and he did it on purpose, put them out there in Ukraine's area, and it kept the internet going. So that's why Ukraine was able to do what they were doing. So we do have that capability.
So if black folks wanted internet in all the black neighborhoods, it's possible.
Oh yeah, urban.
So
he can do the same Starlight. I think it's called Starlight or something like that. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they have the ability to do anything. They have the ability to do it. Now, are they willing to do it? I'm not to get off the subject.
No, this is real talk. So we're gonna have real conversation on this show. We don't shy away from the real conversation.
But Mills did mention that our first mission was digital inclusion, making sure people access to technology. But then when we ran into Herschel Rich, who helped start the Recommission, he's passed on since then. He turned us on to when we were showing all the pictures of all the labs we had set up, after we left TSU. He said, "This is fantastic, Johnny." But he said one thing: it doesn't do any good to teach kids how to read and write if they can't. It doesn't do any good to teach kids how to use computers if they can't read and write. And so that's when he gave us that program. So our whole mission changed. Well, didn't change, but we decided to also we enhanced to making sure kids can read and write by 5. So we had a curriculum that we put on the computer that's now endorsed by the NAACP Houston, and also the Dr. Rod Page, who's endorsed and called it revolutionary. So we have a curriculum that we put on the computers that we put out there. And we do a computer Olympics every year at University of Houston for the last
based on the
15 years. Yeah, where they compete. But with that said, my point is that the problems we have in our neighborhoods and our community is kids are not learning how to read and write by 5. We call it the 90% rule. The 90% rule says if a child can read by 1st grade, they have a 90% chance of performing at grade level throughout their school age years. A child that cannot read by 1st grade, which most Black and Hispanic kids fit into that category, would have a 90% chance of never performing at school.
When you say most Black and Hispanic kids, what's the percentage?
75 plus.
75%?
Yeah, 75% plus of Black kids. In Houston, you got.
Are we talking about all Black kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just in a city.
Yes.
All African American children.
Yeah, you can go to our website and look at the statistics we got on the website, and you can go to Cleveland. We got all the statistics. We didn't make those statistics up. These are coming from the Kinder study from Rice and all these other statistical people that what's the federal government site that not Kinder, but the CDC, not the CDC, but whoever does the stats. We're getting these stats from newspaper articles. So go to our website and you'll see all these stats. But for example, Houston, less than 12% of male Black 8th graders can read at grade level. And see, so, and it's worse than
Less
that.
than 12% of black males,
eighth graders
eighth graders
can read at grade level.
can read at 8th grade level.
Yeah, can read at their grade level.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
At,
So
at
See,
8th
the
grade
problem
level.
that we have.
So Dr. Mills, I mean, you know, I know you pay attention to a lot of these things. You've written books about a lot of different things, and I know you're very engaged with the social climate of America, and politically as well. But you know, how do we get to that point? I mean, you know,
Well,
black people before so-called integration,
before they took the signs down.
yeah, before they took the signs cut down, it's desegregation. In other words,
right.
before it's desegregation, you know, these people, parents and grandparents, whatever, they washed floors and took care of people's
Right.
children and
Right.
didn't have a high school diploma of their own.
Right.
But yet they were able to put their kids through
Through
school, through college, and they got degrees and became successful teachers and professors and doctors and lawyers. And they didn't have the same resources and access to technology.
But they had family structure.
They had family structure. So that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
get to you. What happened,
That's
Dr.
it.
Mills?
Well, what happened was we, black people, we switched the paradigm. Prior to the white folk in 1964 and 65 taking the physical signs down, white only, we as a group of people, we lived from the inside to the outside.
Mm.
Our value system was an internal value system. So we knew what we had to do in order to survive within the racist context of the structure of the society. So we were a close-knit group in our families, in our communities, in our churches. Our institutional structures were different. You know, black churches were different. You know, I learned how to read. I tell Johnny this all the time. I learned how to read when I was 3 years old in Sunday school, in church, because the people who taught you were public school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So the pastor of your church, he didn't allow anyone to just get up, you know, and teach Sunday school and so forth. You had to be, you know, versed, you know, in pedagogy and really in spiritual understanding and so forth. So what happened, we switched that paradigm and we started living externally. And once you start living externally and you don't control the external environment, now you break up your family structure. So what
explain what you mean by that, Dr. Mills? We started living externally versus internally.
Before he says that, I'm going to throw this on there too, and Mills can comment on it. When they took the black male out of the family, when the welfare system said, "Hey, look, a black man cannot be in your house, or a man can't be in your house if you're going to receive these benefits."
And the war on drugs.
Yeah. No, let's start. You asked when it started.
Okay. All right.
When it started was in the 60s when they started saying black woman. That's how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't come out and say it like that, but they said, "Hey, look, if you're going to receive any benefits for your children and everything else, then you can't have a man in your house." And that's when it started. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is real. This is real. Yeah. And so when they started doing that, that was a decline of the black family. You know now that, I mean, Mills, but they just all the time.
That to the Hispanics, to the Mexicans, the man could remain in the home.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a deliberate attempt on the system's part to destroy the black family structure, because if you strip a male of the ability to provide for his family, then you know what you did to it.
Castrated.
Yeah. And you know, nowadays, since people don't know these statistics of, you know, but less than 30% of black families are headed by a black man and a black woman together. See, so I call it the destruction of the black family. And so nobody seems too concerned about all that, you know, but basically, and it's continuing. So me and the Mills debate issues all the time about interracial dating and stuff like that. But still, with that said, the black family is in trouble. 90% of our kids. If you go, just for example, go to our website, Baltimore.
What's the website? Because you keep saying go to the
BDDHouston.org.
BDD
Vision to Divide Houston.org. So
BDD
Boy David
Houston.org.
.org.
All right. I just want to make you keep saying go to the website.
Yeah, so look at the stats. You'll see our stats on there. But this, for example, in Baltimore, they have they show where 0% of the high schools, and all of them are 99% Black, have a 0% proficiency rate in math. So that means no child in the Baltimore high school a few years ago were proficient in math in a whole district, Baltimore.
Wow.
And it's just as bad. It's just as bad in Houston. It's just as bad in Chicago. Everybody wonders why all these shootings and these kids are doing all the. You say what's going on? Because we said if you don't teach them how to read and write by 5, that's our mission. Read and write by 5. Besides digital inclusion, if you don't teach them how to read and write by 5, they got a 90% chance of not performing at grade level. So by 3rd grade, kids already know that they're not producing. So now you got the boys doing all kinds of crazy things in class, acting up and everything. So then you got the girls acting up
to cover up.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing. I'm ex-military, and so in 2014, the mission readiness report came out. This is a military report saying that 75% of young adults cannot pass the military exam. So when I came out of high school, 75%. And when I came out of high school, everybody I know could get in the military, including me. So on the front page of that report, it says ready, willing, but unable. That's what it's entitled. 75% can't pass the military exam. And then it says early education is the solution. So even the military knows that if they're going to get quality soldiers that can fly these drones and other stuff like this, they got to. The United States has to invest in early education. And even in 2019, prior to the pandemic, the state of Texas passed House Bill through House HB3, where they were required that because the state was turning purple. Remember, that's when all the Democrats won, all these sisters won, all these judgeships. That's when the governor they invited us up to Austin with a bunch of pastors, and we were there, and the education experts were quoting stats that I quote all the time. And I said, these turkeys know all this stuff all along. And they said, we're going to require that they put $5-6 billion towards every child has to get a quality early education. And so for all 4-year-olds now, you're in Missouri City, all these school districts have to require, they're required now, they have to provide early education to all 4-year-olds and half a day for 3-year-olds. That started in 2019, right before the pandemic. The only reason it hasn't been pushed that much lately is because the pandemic kind of messed everything up. But that's what we were really fighting about and trying to push out there to make sure child cares were included in that.
Wow.
And everything. But my whole point is that the federal government, everybody knows that these kids are not reading and writing by 5. They know the outcome of what's going to happen if they don't. All the experts know that, but they're still not willing to invest enough into it. And I say it's political. A lot of people are naive and they don't know what's going on. That's the problem. So back to it started back when they started separating the Black male from the Black female, and then it continues on to making sure the kids are not getting the quality early education they're getting now, and that's our problem today, because it doesn't say if a child can read by 1st grade that they might be okay. It says that they have a 90% chance of performing at grade level. So they're saying if you get them reading and writing, regardless of their environment, there's a 90% chance they will be successful.
So what about are there stats that speak to, because you have a lot of individuals out here that would make the argument, I don't need a man in the house to raise my child or to have an effective family.
The statistics don't show
that's what I was going to say. What do the statistics say about this?
Those same people are people who probably go to church fairly often and claim to have a God conscience and some sense of what Christian values are. And they don't understand at the same time that family is the basic unit of every society. I don't care where you go on the face of this planet, every society has a family structure. So that's the beginning of society. Every other institution in a society evolves out of family, whether it's the educational institution, because the first school is your what? Your home. Because that's where you have to learn a certain kind of value system in relationship to behavior, thought patterns, and all that kind of stuff and so forth. Now, our problem is we were brought into a system from another continent as property, and the white man built a system based on property rights. See, the American system itself is based on property rights. So consequently, Black people were considered as being the property of white people.
Yeah.
And in many ways, the white man defined the white woman as his property too. That's why he had miscegenation laws. He had laws against a Black man being a white woman, but he ain't had no law against a white man being with a Black woman. And that created a whole nother set of issues and problems. And so consequently, what you have now is families functioning not as what? Units of love, but what? Economic units. That's why a Black woman will tell you quicker than quick, I make my own money. And you can't tell me how to spend my money or what to do, blah, blah, blah. And that creates all kinds of issues and so forth. And because Black men have not been able to move within the economic structure the way white men move, we as Black men oftentimes cannot provide economically for our families. So a Black woman then will tell you, because she can move in and out of the white man's economic system more readily than you can, a Black man. So she'll tell you quicker than quick, hey, I don't need no man. Because she doesn't really understand spiritually the importance of the family unit and the importance of the role of a man. Because see, in a family, two things in terms of dynamics has to take place. And mother has to teach love. She's got to teach the children to love the father. Otherwise, the father can't train the child in the way of the Lord. But if you got a situation where you got women telling children, your father ain't this, you know, he blah, 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 and all of that. I give you the best example in the world. Now, we all know Tiger Woods messed up.
Did he?
Yeah, you know he messed up. He messed up big time. His wife divorced him, and he had to give her $100 million. $100 million. But every time you see Tiger now, he's with his girlfriend, and his two children are with him. The young lady is sitting on the golf course most of the time, riding around with the girlfriend. That wife never taught the children to disrespect or hate Tiger because of his misdeeds, nor disrespect the young lady that he's with. Now, she took the $100 million that Tiger gave her, and she's worth 200 and something million. I know another Black guy, and Johnny knows him too. We're not going to call no name.
Why not?
Basketball player. Very successful professional basketball player. Right, Johnny? Very successful basketball player. I ain't going to mention no name. And his son is a professional basketball player making millions of dollars. But the mother's taught the son not to respect the father.
Wow. Wow.
See, and that's the kind of dynamic we have going on that keeps us from having healthy children and a healthy society in the Black community where we respect one another, and our pastoral leaders, you know, rather than always wanting to build big fancy churches and everything, learning how to help keep our families together.
Yeah.
See, John and I have this argument all the time. I tell him, see, our problem is not interracial marriage, because see, I'm not God.
Mm-hmm.
So God gives people free will choice. So if God gives you free will choice, then I must give you free will choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because only 4 to maybe 5% of the Black people in this country are intermarried interracially.
You got to quote right statistics if you're going to quote that.
Well, what's the right statistic?
1 out of 5 African Americans now who marry are getting into interracial dating. And if you have
Interracial dating or marriage?
Yeah. So if less than 30% of the Black family,
you said 1 out of 5, that's
20%, yeah.
Okay.
So
not 30.
Well, let me talk.
Okay.
I don't interrupt you. Mm-hmm. Okay, because if less than 30% of the Black family is headed by a Black man and a Black woman, any activity that you do toward making sure that if you really care about Black Lives Matter and Black Family Matters and Black Community Matters, then you need to rebuild the Black family. So in my argument, you cannot be encouraging and supporting all interracial dating and marriage if you want to see the Black family rebuilt, even if it's not your intention to, or you're ignorant to the stats that I'm throwing out there. Then if that's still not your intention to do that, but you are participating in that. So to support, it's just like, I'm gonna get some people mad when I say this. It's just like when, I support 90% of gay issues, but I don't support some gay issues. So, and I don't celebrate gay issues. I want gay people to have their rights, but you don't support, you don't promote the sin. You love the sinner, but you don't promote the sin. So you don't go out there and promote interracial dating like we do. Black people, we all brag about it. My son was dating a Korean girl, very pretty girl. Me and my wife would, of course, rather have seen her with a sister, but we didn't say anything. We said, go, do your thing. And then she went back to Korea. They saw pictures of him and her. She came back and broke his heart. So my point is, so other groups are fighting to keep their family structure, but Black people who have the weakest family structure, we're all out here, let's be all nice and be all cool about it, and we're getting worse and worse and worse.
And so going back to what you were saying, this is a very healthy discussion.
Yeah, right.
And we definitely need to
continue.
John and I, I'm gonna have you back because we have a lot of other stuff to cover. But going back to the educational component of this.
Can I make a comment before you do that?
Well, let me do this, and I want to come to that because I still wanted to understand what the internal external thing that you talked about earlier that you didn't get a chance to finish when I asked you. But relative to the educational component of things, you talk about all of these, the lack of family structure, and people not reading on their grade level after the first grade, I think you said.
But if you don't know how to read by 5,
by the age of 5,
and
you're
not going to probably have to read
less than 12% of Black kids, 8th graders
in Houston. Now it's less in Chicago, it's less in Detroit, it's less in Baltimore.
I guess my question to you all on the educational front is, I hear all of these things, statistics and stuff that you all are throwing out and conversations that we're having, but you have these different academies and people who are touting success rates that 100% of the people at this high school or this particular school are graduating and getting college scholarships and going to college. You see it in some in Chicago. I think LeBron James had some sort of an academy, and then in New York, there's a guy, that has some program, different other parts of the country. There's these different, you got the Young Men Prep Academy right there. We used to be out there at the middle school. It used to be the middle school that fed in the Wheatley. you got these different types of programs that tout all of this success. You got the one right here across the street that's been converted to the Young Women Prep Academy. Right. So how is it
used to be
that these programs who offer this educational knowledge, these resources that are available to everybody, well, seemingly available to everybody in this country, how are they able to find this level of success? And schools like traditional inner city schools, public schools, have these struggles?
It's the feeder system. The feeder system to the school districts are child care centers. And child care centers, 90% of child care centers in low-income communities are babysitting centers. So
they just parents sending them to school to be looked at,
yeah,
not to learn.
I mean, they would like them to learn, but they're not learning.
Who would like them to learn? The parents? Or
everybody. Everybody wants the kids to learn. Mm-hmm. But if you're a single mother with 5 kids, we got a whole apartment complexes in South Park and in Southwest Houston. I mean, we got computer centers in them where you got 90% of the residents are single mothers with kids.
90%.
90%. Yeah. And see, I'm saying, and the average person doesn't know that. Mm-hmm. The average person think, they don't know the terrible plight of you don't know that Worth in high school, 90%, 99% of their kids can't pass the military exam. I only know that because I got a police officer who works there who's ex-Army who's trying to get them to pass the exam. And I said, hey man, you need to put them in the Air Force. He said, man, they can't even pass the Army exam. So this is the feeder system, just like the military, just like the stats I gave you earlier. If we're not teaching our kids how to read and write by 5, then they have a 90% chance of never performing at grade level. And that's what we're getting. That's the outcome we're getting. That's why you're getting the pants hanging down. That's why you're getting the shootings and all the other stuff is going down because the stats play it out. So until this country invests, and that's what the military report was implying. Until this country, but the administration is trying to do it. Yeah, but until the Republicans or white America, until they say we want to invest, this is my opinion now, until they say we want to invest and make sure these kids are reading and writing, because we can send, I support them. I'm ex-military. I support them giving billions to Ukraine, but they should be giving billions to early education.
I don't support that, but I hear what you're saying because you're military. But I mean, they can find money for Ukraine like this, but they can't find money for what we're talking about here. Point. I have a huge problem with that.
But the problem my problem with white America, and even mostly Black Americans, is that we don't know the value of what Black people have brought to this nation. But 2019, we celebrated the 400-year anniversary of the first slaves arriving in the United States in 1619, and nobody made a big, not too many people, but Virginia celebrated. That's where they arrived at. Nobody made a big deal about that. So because we Black people didn't want to share, but we became the fastest economically developed country of all time of the world because of slavery.
Black people built the infrastructure.
Black people were the reason why this country became so wealthy so quick. And then they did Jim Crow. They did all these other when the prison system, they were taking young Black men and women and locking them up and making them work. So we built this country, and so most Black people don't understand the value of them, and what they've done. So even when I was a little kid, I was a military brat, grew up with half my friends, most of my friends were white because I was on the military base. And I remember telling my brother at 3rd grade, I said, Bruce, I said, at least Black people said, hey, look, they benefited from the color being Black. I said, so at least if it wasn't for Black people, we wouldn't have the color Black. My brother said, wait a minute, dogs are Black. And I said, well, damn, we ain't did jack. So I had no idea what history we had. I thought all my white friends, they used to go to the movie and we'd be with them and you see all these cowboys. I didn't know 1 out of 4 cowboys was Black because all the cowboys on TV were on the movie we used to go to, sitting with our white friends, yelling for the white, Randolph Scott and all these people. We were all celebrating. We were celebrating white folks. So my point is that until white people, which a lot of them they're using this excuse now that they don't want to learn Black history, we're trying to turn it down. But until they or the world sees the value of what Black Americans did for this nation, then they would probably want to invest. But right now they think, hey, in my opinion, they think, you guys should be so happy here. You're not in the jungle out there killing lions and stuff like that. That's how I came up believing. And so I believe that if white people ever learn the educations, learn what Black people have done for this country, and really understand, then they may be saying, we do owe them. I used to think we didn't. I used to be against reparations, until my later years. I said, wait a minute, we did too much for this nation for them not to invest in at least. I think reparations should go to read by 5. I think Biden should make sure that every Black kid in this country, and even brown kid, I don't think should be given $50,000 to make sure they're reading and writing and get that quality education. So now the question that you asked earlier, why do we have a few of these schools doing so great of a job? Because do you know that 90% of the schools that are majority, and I'm saying almost 100% of the schools that are majority are F&D schools. Mm-hmm. You understand what I just said?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Fort Bend, everywhere else. 90% of majority schools are F&D schools. Go to majority school, look up the stats. The state posts out there every year.
And I think that's something we need to start shifting as far as our narrative, calling them majority schools, because if we start continue to look at ourselves as minorities, we're the majority. When you talk about people of color, I mean, when you talk about people of color that make up Houston Independent School District, make up Fort Bend ISD, and many of these other populations where there's heavy Hispanic and African American and even Asian, they are the majority. So, we have gotten, I guess, brainwashed to receive the narrative that white people are the majority. They, although they do run everything when it comes to systems, because they establish the
always
systems.
Run everything.
Well,
they have had 400 years of institutionalization.
Well, they're afraid. I don't believe that that's fact. I don't think that they're going to always run everything, because eventually that's going to change, because they're not going to. Statistics show that they're not, and I know Stephen Kleinberg talked about here recently, even Dr. Stephen Kleinberg, that whites are not producing children. They're not, many of them are not having children and procreating at the same level as Hispanics and African Americans and even Asians in this country. And so they're getting older. They're dying off. I believe that there's a push, and has been a push, to try to bring people from overseas and Europe over here to become citizens of this country.
But see, that's where the misguided conceptualization comes in. See, it's not, and this is what the white folk are dealing with. See, they think it's about population replacement. Mm-hmm. It's not. That's why this insane mad dog type young man, 18 years of age, drove 200 miles or more to kill some Black people. And on the AK-47 rifle that he had inscribed, "Here's your reparations." That's what he wrote on the gun to kill all those Black people.
Yeah.
Simply because he's been instilled with the notion that in terms of population, you're going to be placed and wiped out. And I'm saying to you that white people have 400 years of wealth creation. You are not going to ever wipe that out. We will never be able to, as a minority, even if we become the majority physically in terms of population, control the dynamics monetarily of this society.
We're only 12% of the population. How are we going to become?
Even if you become 55% of the population, white folk have institutional wealth that they have built up over 400 years and passed it on from what? Generation to generation to generation. Black people, 9 times out of 10, when we get some money, it goes right back into the system. Because we spend the money,
for living, wisely or living, when you got to pay your bills. So,
Well, not just that.
well, I'm not.
You know,
but
a lot of times
but
we spend it unwisely.
yeah, no, but I want to put it. Yeah, he would say both. You know, so you got to pay your bills and everything else, but you're trying to live. So I don't want to dog people out because they're trying to live.
But see, that's what's happening now. But going back to even the 60s or prior to the signs coming down, you know, I know for instance, in my particular family, my great-great-grandfather had no formal education of any sort. He was he came out of slavery and was able to acquire hundreds of acres of land.
You still got it?
Yes,
okay.
And the mineral rights, and the mineral rights.
You're one of the few,
and not just the land, but the mineral rights that our family to this day in 2022 are able to benefit from and control. But again, I go back to the lack of formal education that we now have all access to, and we had more wealth, houses, land, etc., mineral rights in this particular, which is
previous generations,
right? And so now you got all these degreed folk that got access to, you know, all of this.
They go off and
the internet and everything else. They got digital access in some cases.
Relatives, they won't pay the taxes and let the.
And I had that situation happen in my family where the taxes wasn't paid on a piece of property that my grandfather built.
There you go.
And we didn't find out until late. Now it's this mad dash to try to sell the property in order to cover the cost of the taxes and not get it taken from us. I offered to buy it, and they didn't want to sell it to me.
Your own family.
They didn't want to sell it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that we do have
the system from getting
right, and so we do have some warped up thinking, man. But I think that having access to the internet, you know, and we do actually have
information
access to the internet with these. Everybody black got one of these mostly. You know, what's the percentage on that? 87%, I think.
No, I can't tell you. I'm sure
that have smartphones.
8% of high schoolers probably have.
They have smartphones.
So but when they go home, do they have?
That's the thing.
Do they have?
And so that's the thing. They don't have that, and so people don't go to the libraries like they used to anymore.
They go sit outside the library and try to get the internet.
Right, they try to get the internet. So I think that it's important for us to, from an educational standpoint, provide people with access to the internet and digital inclusion, because you know, I still have a problem with the fact that certain areas of town don't have access, and most of them, in my opinion, and I don't know, y'all have done this regularly, it seems as if most of your poor, underserved communities, black and brown communities, are the ones that don't. Bel Air, they got access. You know, West University, they got access. You know what I'm saying? River Oaks, they got access. Bel Air, you know, all these people, they got access.
Yeah.
But they don't have no problem calling AT&T or Comcast or whoever and saying, hey, my internet is down or my Wi-Fi ain't working or I don't have access. And they or have one bar or no bars.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a quick little story. The first time I really went to Mississippi and visited, I used to go through Mississippi. You know, you go through Mississippi.
Right.
But the first time I ever
like
went
going
there,
through Fida.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like going through Fida. Hey, man, you get on through there real quick. And I went there when the first black mayor got elected around 2000. And went there to visit with him because a friend of mine was a big time pastor in Jackson. And I walked in City Hall, you know, City Hall all white and everything. And I looked at the cornerstone. And when I read that cornerstone, it shocked me in terms of the nerve that white people have sometimes. The cornerstone read, built in 1852, slave labor free, material cost $7,500. I said, now these people put this on the cornerstone that they built this with slave labor, didn't pay anything in terms of labor cost. The material and the beautiful building, material cost was $7,500.
Which was a lot of money at that time.
Which was a lot of money. So I told the mayor, I said, man, let me tell you something. Don't ever take that side down. always let these white folk kids know y'all owe somebody.
somebody.
Y'all owe somebody's relative, cousin, somebody.
You should have took a picture.
Yeah, I should have. But next time I go over there, and I'll be going over there pretty soon, I'm gonna take a picture. But that shocked me to death. I said, man, these people have a lot of nerve, man. Put their sign up there like that. You know?
Wow. Well, let's talk about real quick, Johnny, as we close, and Bobby, about the program that you offer. These different. I know it's something that I know I would love to do in Missouri City. But I know you guys have a partnership with AT&T right now. Can you talk about some of the things that you've done and are doing in the communities?
Yeah. We go into apartment complexes and we place computer centers in there, and then we also do Wi-Fi
for free.
Well, yeah, well, usually sponsored by AT&T in the city of Houston or somebody.
Okay.
Somebody's paying for it.
No, what I mean, it's not free, period, but it's free to
somebody
those,
else is paying.
to those individuals.
The residents, the residents get
residents.
to use the lab for free. So we're in about 22 of them now.
In Houston.
Yeah, Houston.
Oh, wow.
Of course, we want to be in every apartment complex. So we, like for CUNY, for example, CUNY Homes last year, 25th, we put the George Floyd. That was the day we honored George Floyd. That was the day he was murdered. And so a year later, to 25th, he grew up in the CUNY Homes. So we went to the CUNY Homes and put a computer center in there. We're all over the news and everything, but we put the computer center in there, one for seniors, one for the high school, one for the after schoolers, and one for the general population. But then we put the first Wi-Fi park there. So basically, you're familiar with the CUNY Home. So you got the gym the basketball court out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we put the AP devices that broadcast the internet way all out, so people can sit outside with their benches and stuff and get access to with their phones and their tablets and everything.
Mm.
So now we got that at all the. We just did it at Marion Park over here with Councilmember Tatum and Pollard a month or so ago.
And we've done a number with.
Are you at Haverstock?
Shabazz.
No, we just went to Haverstock and gave away hotspots.
Okay.
So we haven't put a computer center there yet, but we went there and gave away hotspots to the residents.
Okay. I would love to see some
but
done
we want to identify at least 2 or 3 places.
Well, Haverstock, is that in Missouri City?
No, it's in the north side.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought that's what I was talking about, because you were talking about you were talking like you were like that's
well,
wait a minute.
My chapter for Omega South Phi Fraternity Incorporated, north side.
Hey, well, we just did I just did the lab at the Maker House by TSU.
Yeah, that's what they told.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, you knew it. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, the Makers worked with us with Wesley Square. They were always
they're
out there with us a lot.
16.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What you was going to say, Doc?
No, I was saying that we wanted to get with you in Missouri City in your district and identify at least 3 places that we can maybe even a church where they got a nice community type center or something, or an apartment complex or whatever. It's up to you.
I'm definitely gonna work with you all on that, but then too, I know many of our listeners probably have some suggestions as well, and so I encourage y'all to drop that in the chat. I see a lot of people have been responding and everything in the chat, but
I hope it's positive. I know we were talking about a lot of
stuff. Hey, look, ain't no telling what
making a difference.
Hey, look, hey, one thing about the RTJs, that's the Real Talk Junkies.
Yeah,
they're gonna have something to say about everything that's being discussed and talked about. But I definitely want to work collaboratively with you all, because this is a very important issue to have access. Hell, I even struggle to have full Wi-Fi access at times. Where I live out in Missouri City, and with the amount of taxes that I pay,
Johnny gonna get that. He gonna wire you up with a hotspot.
Hey, with the amount of taxes I pay, I should be having Wi-Fi access, but everybody should have access to. Because you think about it, you talked about the Ukraine earlier and how the Russians tried to shut everything down, and just imagine you don't have access to basic. It's stuff that we take for granted. We take for granted having the ability to go on the internet and see what's going on real time, whether it's just regular Google or MSN, or whether it's the Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. We get a lot of our information these days from social media and on the internet. We don't just read magazines anymore. We're 4 times. People read our newspapers, but a lot of people go online and they go to forwardtimes.com and they check us out at forwardtimes.com. But to get those stats that you talked about, I'm going to be visiting BDD
BDD.
Bridging
The digital
the
divide.
digital divide. Okay.
So BDD.
BDD
Houston.org.
.org. Okay. BDDHouston.org. You know, so I'm going to be checking that out. But, you know, there's been some lively conversation, some real conversation. And it's
We'll
something.
come back again.
Oh, yeah. I plan to have y'all back. Y'all a welcomed addition to the Real Talk Junkies, you know, podcast. And we really appreciate y'all's participation. As we close, though, I'd like to give you all an opportunity to kind of just speak about the importance of what you all do, or just some any community issues that you feel like is important for our listeners to talk about or hear about from you. I'll start with you, Johnny.
Well, again, I think the most important thing is we're actually when the library system, Harris County library system got this grant and purchased 40,000 hotspots. They didn't get any funding to distribute them, so they asked some nonprofits to do it for free. So we're doing it for free, but these gladly, because these are fantastic devices. 5G, unlimited data, 30 devices can connect to them. They're going to be paid for most likely for the next 2 or 3 years. So you have internet anywhere. You don't have the problem. You don't have that problem at home anymore, like you said. So the most important thing I can do, we've been giving out to the university students in the last month before they left campus, which they left last week. So we want to give them out to high school students before they leave campus for the summer. So the main thing we want to make sure is that we have thousands of these. So we want to give them out. So that's the most important thing we can talk about today. All the other issues are fantastic, and we got opinions on them. But the main thing is to make sure that people are digitally included.
Well, I want to connect y'all to Yates, you know, my alma mater. And we can get them out to some Yates students. But Dr. Mills, you know, what's your final comments?
Well, we know that education is the key to having a successful life in this society. And one of the things we have always focused in on is it's not about money. With Johnny and I, we're not making money. We're not getting rich out of this. This is nonprofit. And we're doing this gladly because we saw the difference at Texas Southern when we worked there.
Yeah.
With young people coming out of HISD that really was not college ready.
Yeah.
So they were starting behind the 8 ball. And Johnny did everything within his power from an academic point of view to try to make sure that they could function at the junction and graduate from college.
Well, we thank you all so much for the work that you all do and have done. Dr. Mills, you're a staple in the community. You know, definitely appreciate you and your all your work that you do and have done. And Johnny, you know, you're an unsung hero. You know, you couldn't get more praise than you got. I know that. I think they even gave you a day at City of Houston.
The same day, George Floyd Day, they gave me that day. That's
so you know, we appreciate you and your work. You've been doing it for a long time, and we appreciate you. You know, we give you both of you your roses while you can smell them. All right, that'll do it, y'all. We're gonna get up out of here. Real Talk Junkies Live. Make sure y'all share the link. Come back and check out the show. Share it with your friends, your family, or your foes. It doesn't matter as long as they check out this podcast. Make sure you tune in next week, Wednesday, 12 noon Central Standard Time. Let's go.